Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ronen Daniel. I'm heading the warning solution division at Utimaco, which is a global leader in the cybersecurity and public warning system domains. Thank you very much for attending my presentation. In the last 2 years, most of the European governments were busy deploying public warning system, and this is further to the EU Parliament requirement. Now, the EU Parliament demanded a mobile technology based public warning system that does not require any proactive action from the subscribers. So this leaves us with, this rules out all kinds of apps, and it leaves us with either self-broadcast or location-based SMS. And indeed, most of the governments in Europe decided to go for self-broadcast for obvious reasons, because of the real-time delivery, the unique alerting tone that cannot be ignored, the text-to-speech, all these capabilities that are featured by self-broadcast. There are a few governments, indeed, that decides to stick with location-based SMS. But on the other hand, many of them have decided to go and upgrade the incumbent location-based SMS to self-broadcast. We can see Norway, we can see Portugal very soon, Belgium is coming up, and even outside of Europe, if we take a look at Australia, which suffered from wild bushfires in the last 3 summers, they realized that location-based SMS is not good enough to disseminate alerts in real time to large population, and they also upgraded their system to self-broadcast. So self-broadcast is certainly a very good starting point for every public warning system. And indeed, there are still governments in Europe that are a little behind, and we expect that they will complete the establishment of their systems by the end of next year. But is it good enough? So while working on the public warning systems, governments in Europe and across the world have started to realize that alert dissemination alone is not good enough to mitigate disasters, especially those that are related to climate changes and earthquakes that usually cross borders. And there's a lot of coordination and communication that needs to be done with many other entities besides the public. Also, the UN, in its early warning for all project, they assume self-broadcast and dissemination in general only as one leg of the entire public warning system. So today, in my presentation, I wanted to speak a little bit about how we can complement a public warning system beyond self-broadcast and beyond alerts dissemination. A few words on our company. So we are Utimaco, a global cybersecurity leader. We've been dealing with all aspects of public safety in the last 40 years. We are 600 people scattered in 5 different subsidiaries and tens of countries worldwide. Our headquarters are in Aachen, Germany, and Campbell in the US. And we've been growing steadily. And in the last recent years, our last year revenues were 130 million euros. On the warning solution division, then this is basically based on the Celtic acquisition that happened more than a year ago. We deal with all the technologies that related to public warning. We have 23 years of experience. And our systems, we are the world's largest self-broadcast providers. We have 80 deployments of CBE and CBCs worldwide. And our system broadcasts something like 1,000 alerts per day to close to 1 billion subscribers in 25 countries. In the last 2 years, we have deployed 5 national public warning systems. In all the examples that you see here, we deployed everything, CBE and CBCs to all the mobile operators in the country besides Denmark. In Denmark, we've been chosen only by 1 mobile operator out of the 3. But all the rest, we did the entire system from A to Z. All of them are working. All of them are generating alerts. A few quick words on each one of them. So Denmark has been launched their system, has launched their system 3 weeks ago. In Ukraine, it was a humanitarian project, so we did it once the war started to support the Ukrainian people in the war. In Qatar, we established the system towards the FIFA games that took place end of last year. And in India, we've deployed our system in a state called Andhra Pradesh. India is divided into states. This state has like more than 50 million citizens, and it has the longest coastal line in India of 900 kilometers or so. So they are very vulnerable for cyclones and lightning storms. Here you can see our 8 cell broadcast deployments, the 80 deployments that I just mentioned. So every line here is a customer, could be a mobile operator or a government. And if we assume that every mobile operator has something like 3 mobile networks in average, out of the 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, then this is clearly something like 250 network integration that we've been doing along the years. Just a few words about our public warning system. So it all starts with the CBE. Actually, CBE is not the right word anymore. CBE stands for Cell Broadcast Entity. And the CBEs today need to do much more than cell broadcast. So as you can see here, our CBE can manage alerts on location-based SMS, social media, and all these channels that you can see here. And this is not easy, because every channel requires different kind of content. So if you want to send in the same time cell broadcast message and a message on the TV and a message on the social media in different languages, it has to be well compiled within the system. Also, a good CBE, or a good command post, as we call it, has to be able to manage everything in advance. So in real emergency, obviously, people don't have time to start and compile messages and draw polygons on the map. Everything has to be set in advance. So the command post obviously allow lots of templates with all the vulnerabilities that are usually 80% of the incidents in a certain country. Also, every organization has a different workflow. So there are organizations that there's one person that does everything: compile the message, approve the message, and publish the alerts. And there are countries that these 3 actions are done by 3 different people. So a system has to manage the roles and responsibilities of all the users. And in most cases, there is more than one agency. So there are the police and the firefighters and the civil defense and the regional governments, and they all use the same system. And each one of them needs to get a user experience that is adapted to its own culture and procedures. On the CBC. So as I said, we've been in this business for the last 23 years. Our CBC integrates to 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G networks. Now, 4G and 5G networks are relatively easy, and there are many countries that decide to go to 4G and 5G because it's an easier deployment. The standard is very well defined, but 2G and 3G is a jungle. The standards were not defined very well. There are lots of vendors, as you can see here, Each one of them has its own interpretation for the technology and for the standards. And we just gained a lot of experience integrating our CBC to all these vendors, but some of them are no longer existing, but their equipment is still there with the MNOs. So that's the public warning system, CBE, CBCs, and when we're talking about expansions, usually we're talking about other dissemination channels, and of course it has a merit because more channels are always better than one channel. So we just discussed location-based SMS. Location-based SMS in combination with cell broadcast, of course, can give us very nice features like situational awareness and crowd management, which I'll elaborate in a minute. But this means that the location-based SMS and the cell broadcast systems have to be integrated with the same network. So if you separate the networks and put location-based SMS on 2G and cell broadcast on 4G, it will not help you on that front. Sirens is usually something that we get asked by our customers after cell broadcast is done. So everybody's worried about sirens, and then TV, radio, signages. And in fact, every screen that can be connected eventually will be connected to the public warning systems, even ATM screens. Just to give you an example, in Qatar, we've been asked to connect our system to the PA systems in the mosques, which is very specific, obviously, for this country. But if we're trying to look a little bit beyond dissemination, so we can see that there are many other models that can compile a very good public warning system. So I'll mention a few. So there is a situational awareness system, which requires a location-based SMS engine within the MNOs. It's not really for the SMS dissemination, but by combining both technologies, then when we draw a polygon on the map, we can know how many people are in this polygon, from which nationalities they are coming, who can give help, who needs help. Everything should be prepared in advance. Who enters the targeted area, who leaves the targeted areas. So we have a clear picture of what's going on in the affected area. Another system is a decision support system, and there are many of them. Let me give you just one example. So let's assume that there is a dam or a river that tends to overflow. Then to be able to anticipate when the river will overflow, then we need to obviously monitor the level of the water on the river or on the dam. But we also need to take into consideration the weather forecast. So if we're talking about a combination of heavy rains and high level of water, then we can, with the right algorithms, anticipate when we will have to disseminate the alerts to the public. And there is also the critical event management module, which actually helps us to monitor the entire event beyond dissemination. And this is what I wanted to elaborate a little bit more now. So the critical event management module, which is embedded in our command post, helps governments to prepare, protect, and even restore the situation after the event. How does it do that? So let's take a case that there is a hurricane that moves from one state to another. So besides the dissemination to the public, then what we need to do is we need to coordinate different forces. We need to coordinate between different governments, state governments, even national governments. We need to coordinate The first responders, sometimes they're coming from different countries, as we heard on the example of Turkey. So there were delegations coming all over the world, but no one could, at the beginning, tell them what to do, where to place the mobile hospital. The supplies, chains of supplies, water, medicine, you need to trace them to know the location, to see if there's a problem, if they are stuck. There are lots of IoT-related actions like opening shelters from remote. So in case there's a war starts, most of the shelters are still locked and they need to send someone to open them up. And if this is connected to the system, then you can, with one click, connect all the shelters in the required area. And there's a lot of communication to be done with high-level executives, politicians, press. All these are not handled by the basic public warning system, but it can certainly be managed with a good critical event management module. A few features on our module. So as I said, it helps to analyze the preparedness of the government towards certain vulnerabilities. It connects to available services of weather forecast, trains, traffic, everything which is out there can be connected to the system. And of course, roles, responsibility, everything we discussed earlier. But one of the most powerful tools is that it logs everything that happened during the event. So we can use these logs to improve our reaction next time, to improve our procedures, and fix the problems. Just a couple of case studies to wrap up my presentation. So this is what we've done in Denmark, as I said. The system has been launched, was launched 3 weeks ago. It includes a CBE that is being used by the Danish police and a CBC, which is used by one of the mobile operators in the country, which is Three. Only 4G and 5G, this is what they wanted. Standalone 5G, by the way, there's a difference between non-standalone and standalone 5G. Utimaco was the first vendor in the world to integrate its CBC to a standalone 5G. It happened 2.5 years ago in Taiwan with Taiwan Mobile. We also helped the Danish government to finalize and fine-tune the CAP protocol. So as you know, CAP is the protocol, Common Alerting Protocol, is the protocol that has been used by different governments, but it needs adaptations. It's very, very, very general, and every government has to adapt it to its own needs. So we help the Danish government to finalize its own CAP, and we have been selected also to provide a full managed service for the next 5 years for the Danish government. So it's including our systems, but not only, the entire service. So this is about Denmark. Very nice case studies in Ukraine. So as I said, it was an humanitarian project. We've been asked by the civil defense in Ukraine to help them. We took it very seriously. We asked them to take it very seriously. And what we realized was that even though in most of the countries, this kind of project deployment may take 12 to 18 months, we did everything in Ukraine in 6 weeks. So I'm talking about integrating 3 operators, Kyivstar, Vodafone, and LifeCell, and the CB for the government. Everything was done in 6 weeks. And this was very, very nice to see. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions if there are any. No questions.
I've got a question here,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. So after this is my interpreter.
Sure.
So I'm just curious. it's about the public warning system, because at the moment this is all, a lot of it is text-based. Is there any scope to be adding videos in the future? I'm thinking specifically sign language videos, so that deaf people who use sign language as their first language would be able to understand what's being said to them.
That's a very, very good question. It's currently, indeed, most of the public warning system are text-based. Look, the thing about public warning system is that you need to start quickly with maximum coverage in a very rapid time and in a low cost. So cell broadcast is something that everybody starts with. Of course, you can combine link with cell broadcast, and this link can go to any kind of website that can include videos, but it's not like straightforward. Also, the banners that we do today on TVs, they are all text-based. I believe that social media, I mean, you can incorporate videos, but usually you don't have time for videos. I mean, that's an emergency. And that's one of the problems. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then everyone is obviously invited to our booth. We can show you the real CBE and CBC and demonstrate to you how we disseminate alerts over TV and apps. And everyone is welcome. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Can I take over your headset?
Of course.
Thank you. Okay. Bear with me. Wrong. So hopefully my ears will not stand too much out. Welcome. My name is Reinard van Loo from Frequentis. We're an Austin-based company supplying control room solutions the world over. If you want to have more information, we are just around the corner from the hall, and I will shut up about Frequentis now and talk more about what my topic is for today, which is video communication with PSAPs. I try to give here more a one step back and say, well, what do we do? What are we talking about when we are talking about video? Because this can be quite a broad topic. So I will first talk a bit more about how it fits in with how we communicate with people in the field and our resources, how it fits in with the other communication methods we use in the PSAPs, and I want to also highlight just two illustrative challenges, problems, whatever you might call them. When dealing with video, it's about proprietary versus open standards, and one topic which is very close to my heart, which I might find most interesting, is what problem does it solve? How are we going to use it? What's the benefit? And what should we avoid? I don't have an answer for that. I have some examples and perhaps propose a way to how to go about this question, but that's what I find most interesting. So in the end, of course, I will try to give a short summary so that they can remember what I talked about. So, as I said, video for me is just one of the communication. It's not only an information source, it's just one of the other communication things I use in my control room. And as you all already know, and this is just one of the many diagrams that are floating about on the internet, is expectations of what you as a public safety organization should be able to receive from the public changes quite a lot. My parents are more the age 56 and over. They would like to make a phone call. My daughter, my two daughters, 13 and 16-year-old, they don't call me anymore. They just text me, and they would perhaps use social media to give you some information, to contact you, to request an answer back to a question, perhaps. And so, a good guy from Australia, Get Griffin, formulated it nicely. I think it's ultimately, if society has changed the way it communicates, the emergency organizations and community must change the way it listens to them. Video, for me, is just one part of that. Of course, whenever there's a new communication method introduced, if it's SMS or text or video or phone call, we always try to make the best out of it and seek some benefits on how we operate our control room. Reduce cost to responding to requests, be more proactive, especially with social media, and you want to be more cognizant about what's happening out there. And if you get a video feed, can you perhaps automatically get something out of that? Perfect, that would be not. But most importantly, when I talk to control room operators, they really actually want to reduce demand and optimize the usage of their resources. Should all the operators now constantly watch video? Can they add that to their already existing stressful tasks? How does that work? So, to summarize again, we see video as one of the many communication channels managed in the control room. And it's not just one additional solution I have to put on my desk so I can watch video. If you look at the past, and this is something we provided to the Met Police in London, for instance, the video for them also means, of course, CCTV. They have massive CCTV video walls. They have access to 50,000 cameras. We managed all that. And from the working position, you see here one of our old-style working positions, active since 2005. They could control which camera they see. That's also video. Is that a communication method? Well, there might be some information coming in from that which I would like to relay back to my people in the field or higher up in the organization. Or use later on in my incident management system. Video is also about doing video conferences. This is me during the COVID. You can recognize it because I have not shaved myself. Luckily, you don't see that I am wearing a short trousers underneath the table, but that's a topic for another situation. But video conferencing with using MS Teams, that's something we get used to quite a lot. And also that's video for us. That's even more communication among multiple persons, sharing video, sharing information among several people. And of course, when we think about video in the control room, we think about that the members of the public can send us pictures or even video snippets about the incident we are working on. So video can be quite a broad topic, can be CCTV, it could be the next generation 112 video call I'm receiving. It could be the MCX, that officers on the street using their radio mobile send me video streams. Drones, it's also one of those things that can supply me video streams. And they all come together in the control room, and the poor operator has to deal with all the information. All these different video streams, they put some challenges on the technical level. One thing I would like to highlight is what standards are we talking about? If I look at the Microsoft Teams, the FaceTime, WhatsApp, Snapchat, Messenger, they all provide some form of video communication which you would like perhaps to receive from be able to respond to from if someone from the public makes a call to you. Of course, they are available now. I use FaceTime quite a lot to talk with my parents in the Netherlands, so they can see the kids as well. But the main thing is that we see them as vertical implementations. Within an MS Teams conference, you cannot include a FaceTime party. It's not possible. I haven't seen a solution for that. And that's what I mean with a vertical implementation. It takes care of the client up until the client on the desktop, what the operator is handling. The operator has to have that thing on the desktop to be able to do an MS Teams conference video call. Which makes it rather difficult to integrate it with other communication video streams coming in from other sources. I would actually, as a public safety access point, I would like to be agnostic about how it comes in. I want to be able to share a stream that comes in via MS Teams with a FaceTime party, with a Snapchat call as well. But it's hard and it's almost impossible. And last but not least, it's a bit whack-a-mole. approach, what is popular today. Is WhatsApp still around? We all thought Twitter would be around for a long time, but it looks dark at the moment. So those things come up and become popular and become unpopular again. So those are, for me, the downsides of those proprietary solutions. We would like to really go to more standard-based solutions. If you talk about next generation 112, video is standardized. A video call is standardized. I can receive it, and because it's an open standard, I can build solutions to conferences with other video sources, or pass it on to a video management system using the OnVIF standard. No problem at all. 3GPP, that's about MCX. Video calls coming in from offices in the field using MCX devices will use that standard, and actually because it's very similar. Video calls in 3GPP and video calls in 112 are technically just an RTP stream, video RTP stream, standards-based. It's much better. And WebRTC we all use now, of course, also in our web-based world. So those are, I call them more horizontal implementation, because they allow at least to couple those things with each other. Because they're open standards, I can much easier integrate those with each other, and also integrate it in my overall control room solution. Because there's also one difficulty. It's rather difficult to include Microsoft Teams, incoming Microsoft Teams routes calls. I want to route my calls, not Microsoft Teams. How do I integrate that? And it's much easier if I go with open standards. Of course, the downside is standards are big, and suppliers, of course, partially implement standards, or they pick and choose which part of the standards they implement. But we're getting where, especially if you look at 3GPP, MCX, and G112, it's now getting, we have a very good maturity level now on how that's implemented. So this is, for me, a very important point for video, go standards and not proprietary solutions. Now, my favorite topic, what problems do I solve with video? Question, really from a control room point of view, I would rather ask, well, what are the use cases for video? I would rather ask, well, what problem does it solve? What problem am I solving? I always remember, for my work, I often go to control rooms to sit beside an operator and look how they do their work. So I sat beside an NHS call taker for the health, 19-year-old guy on a minimum wage. And he's bombarded with telephone calls about where elderly people are panicked because their husband was having a heart attack beside her, or involving accidents, heads popping off, being cut off, literally. It's a bloody stressful job. Imagine in that situation where you have one call after the other about a person in need and in panic, that you also then see the video associated with that, the pictures associated with that. So this is a question one often asks. Well, how does that improve my process in the control room and the utilization of my resources? Do I wear them out too soon? I don't have a concrete answer to that. The only thing is, and as I'll talk about later, is we have to experiment, but that's a different topic. So it doesn't really help me. It does just too much gore. There are clear scenarios where it does help. Fire brigades, if they can see the color of the smoke, that's a big help for them actually to understand. Well, how would I approach this fire while I'm driving to the thing? So I would like to have that. I have the ability to take the NG112 video call and transport it to the resources on the way to the incident, so they can already see what's happening. Yeah? So there are very valid scenarios to take into account. There are scenarios where we think about what are the consequences, and there might be scenarios where it's just information overflow. Do I have a legal obligation to support it? Am I legally obliged to receive a video and the member of the public sends me? I have no answer to that for the moment. And when we talk to control room operators, does it really save me money? Does it make me more efficient? I can have a whole presentation about that in a separate time. But I would like to point to the work that Michael Jackson did, not the Michael Jackson, the other one. It did for the Met Police, where they looked at how can I reduce demand? How can I offload spurious or hoax calls or non-important calls? How can I offload that for my operators so that they have more time to look at video clips sent by a user, for instance? Yeah? So that's where a lot of experimentation is taking place and thinking about how can I reduce demand somewhere else so that I can make use of this video I'm getting and get a better quality of service and provide a better service to the public. Sorry. Technology is not always the problem. We can solve everything with technology. The owner of Frequentis, Mr. Bader, always said that technology is not the problem. We can build a solution to everything, but it's more about the processes. What are we doing with it? How does it fit in? And that's where we also utilize some analysis tools. We work with customers, the fire brigade, not the fire brigade, the police in Hamburg, for instance. We work very closely together to analyze the workflow and see where it makes sense to have support for video and where not. It's analyze it. You can do that. It's not that difficult, actually. And most of the time, there are some surprising results. So, with all that in mind, so what have we done in the past? So what are we supporting now already? For instance, on the topic of drones, we looked at how drones are being used in the police, but there's more to drones than just being able to send it up and send me a picture of the scene. Drones fly in airspace. That airspace is managed airspace. You cannot just you cannot just fly a drone in the air and expect no one will complain, because it might be in airspace which is close to an airfield, or an helicopter might be needed to fly in that region. So you have to be really carefully manage that. And that's where we have already in Norway, and Ivan, help me out. There was Norway, we have now solution in the field, but also in Finland in the Baltic states also did a pilot there. But in Norway we have now an active system where we can request for allowance to send up a drone in a certain area, that the air traffic management knows that there is a drone flying in a certain area, so that it can give us clearance and warn other devices and helicopters, planes in the field, in the area, to be warned about that there's a drone flying about. And then, of course, be able to send that video feed to the local control room using standards-based interfaces, and be able to share that with resources on the street, or even record it. So this is for me one example. So what problem I was solving with video is, for instance, to have a quick eye in the field. We have a video on the stand. You can show the whole use case. You can see the whole use case there to get this video back to the control room and what the use cases are. We solve with that. Another example is that in some customers, we already support web chats and also from your mobile phone. We can invite them for a video call, and they can also we can transmit that video or play it back to another resource in the street. Why? Because in practice, when discussing with the customer, we found out that they would like to have, for selected bits of video, to be able to send it to an officer on the street, so that they can have a look at it as well, or use it as this is the person we're looking for, and a video gives perhaps a better impression of the person you're looking for than a photo. So you receive videos via whatever channel, and you want to get it out to other people, to officers on the street. And last but not least, what you call flag me email, is that I can, if there's a caller, if it's not an emergency caller, I would still like to have a video call of him because he saw something interesting which I would need to know about, which can provide me intelligence. And then, of course, I can invite him or her to open up the camera, so I as an operator can see what the other one is seeing. Again, the use case is there to, on request only, to have additional information which I can disseminate among my own resources. those are just small examples, but the key thing for me is also that, well, in that kind of environment, we need to look at both sides of the fence. It's not just about contact with the public. It's not just about the radio system with the resources in the field. It's about being able to information and video that I receive from the public to bring it over to my resources in the field, and vice versa. Videos or photos that have been sent that I as an operator know that they are working on it, that they are looking for a person, and then suddenly someone calls and I have a video call with him and I recognize him. Hey, bloody hell, this is the person we're looking for. There are several use cases we have to think about, not just about the gory ones. And of course, the well-known use cases about helping people out with reanimation, all those scenarios, of course, are well-known. But we need to bring those into one environment so they can cross that border, and especially NG112 and MCX are the standards for us to achieve this. So to summarize, how we communicate is changing, and video is just one of the communication channels. I really focus on video as a communication method, not just a extra information source in the control room. It shall be seamless. We shall be able to share between members of the public and frontline officers that information and those video feeds. Go standards, think NG112 and MCX, those are the primary ones to focus on to be able to have this seamless transition. And last but not least, let's talk about how it fits into your process, because we as a supplier also have to learn. So we would really like to have the dialogue with you and to better understand how you would like to use or what problems you have that might be solved with video. And with that, thank you very much. If there are any questions, I can take them now. Going once, going twice. You're next.